get an update of what's happening in the world of business. Cara Scotland joins us now in the studio. Cara, it's good to see you.
Hi, Fraser.
The European Central Bank says we can expect more interest rate increases despite a significant dip in inflation.
Yeah, exactly. So the ECB chief, Christine Lagarde, said that these new interest rate hikes would come at a slower, more gradual pace. That's after inflation in the Eurozone dropped to its lowest level since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The annual inflation rate in the 20-country bloc dipped sharply to 6.1% in May, below analyst predictions. However, it's still well above the 2% target set by the ECB, which has lifted interest rates by 3.75 percentage points since last July. Well, that rate policy is having a tangible effect on home buyers here in France. Many are struggling to cope with higher borrowing costs, and banks are more reluctant to hand out mortgages. It's causing a slowdown in the French housing market, and some real estate agencies are even going bust. Emerald Maxwell reports.
Today, Raphaël finally got the keys to her new home on the outskirts of the northern French town of Arras, even if she had to lower her aspirations in order to do so.
At first I was looking for a house with more bedrooms and some land, and I've had to settle for one bedroom and no land. We just can't get as big a loan anymore. We got 20 or 30,000 less.
Her estate agent says it's the same problem across the board. With interest rates soaring and banks reluctant to lend, selling property has become much more difficult.
Up until June last year, it took about 2 weeks on average to sell a property. So they went quite quickly. Nowadays, it's taking 2, 3, even 6 months to sell.
It's a hard time for estate agents, buyers and sellers alike.
People who have always lived in Arras are having to move out because it's gotten so hard.
It's becoming unattainable, impossible even to buy, even for people who are already on the housing ladder.
The market is no less gloomy in bigger cities like Lille. With banks more cautious and more loan applications rejected, this mortgage broker has seen a huge drop in work.
Normally, over a year, we finance around 300 deals. Overall, this year, we expect to complete just around 150 to 160 deals.
The number of brokers that have gone out of business has soared by 78% in a year, and the forecast doesn't look much better, with interest rates expected to rise to 4% this summer.
Let's take a look at the day's trading action now. And on Wall Street, the major markets closing higher as investors welcome progress on lifting the US debt ceiling. The Dow Jones up about 0.5%, and both the S&P 500 and Nasdaq closing at their highest levels since last August, up 1% and 1.28% respectively. The United States and Taiwan have signed a historic trade deal this Thursday, the first agreement under the US-Taiwan Initiative on 21st Century Trade, which was created last year. Washington says the deal will open Taipei to more American exports by simplifying customs, investment and other rules. Beijing, who considers the self-ruled island its own territory, has lashed out at the treaty.
The US should stop any form of official exchanges with Taiwan, refrain from negotiating agreements that have sovereign connotations, and refrain from sending wrong signals to the Taiwan secessionist forces by ways of economy or trade. The DPP authorities' attempt to seek independence with US support under the guise of economic and trade cooperation will end in failure.
The UN says it's concerned by a continuous slowdown in grain exports from Ukraine's Black Sea. A UN spokesperson says Russia told officials overseeing the initiative that Moscow would limit ship registrations at a port in the Odessa region until parties agree to unblock the transit of Russian ammonia. According to Ukraine, Moscow had registered only one incoming ship for inspection in the last 2 days of May.
In May, 33 vessels departed Ukrainian ports, half of the number compared to the previous month of April. Only 3 of those ships departed from the ports of Yuzhny Pivdeny, one of the 3 Ukrainian ports covered under the agreement. Exports in May reached 1.3 million metric tons of grains and other foodstuff. That's less than half of the previous months.
And finally, Airbnb has filed a lawsuit against New York City over new legislation it says will act as a de facto ban on short-term rentals. The law, set to go into effect next month, will require short-term rental hosts to register with the mayor's office and comply with a range of regulations. Airbnb says the application review process will only register a minuscule number of hosts. And that says in the first week of July, Fraser, about 10,000 guests are due to stay in the Big Apple.
That's a lot. It's the similar vibe here in Paris as well. Similar laws come into effect here. They're really starting to clamp down.
With the Olympics, we'll see, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare, I'm sure. Karis Garland with The Business. Thank you so much, Karis.